This evening, first, tax troubles for Team Mohamed. Billions in unpaid taxes tied to luxury vehicles have the GRA under pressure, and the Attorney General says someone has to answer. We'll break down the Ferrari-sized controversy and the politics heating up around it. Plus, big win for students, big investment in education. President Ali scraps CSEC exam fees for students writing at least 8 subjects, public or private. Find out how this $700 million move could shape Guyana's next generation of scholars. Also, payout for pension gaps. Did you miss the NIS pension cutoff? You may still be getting a one-off payout of up to $650,000. We'll tell you who qualifies, when payments begin, and what it means for thousands of senior citizens across the country. Meanwhile, legal shakeup at GECOM. The elections body cuts ties with its legal officer after a courtroom clash over voter verification. GECOM says he undermined their case. Now questions swirl over trust, timing, and the upcoming elections. And Dominican Republic tragedy turns to recovery. Rescue crews end their search after the roof of Jet Set nightclub collapses during a live show, killing over 200 people. The President of the Dominican Republic declares 3 days of mourning as families await answers. Stay tuned, these stories and more tonight on Headline News Update. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for April 10th, 2025. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, following revelations of billions in unpaid taxes linked to luxury vehicles imported by businessman Team Mohamed, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlall has stated that the Guyana Revenue Authority must account for its initial low tax assessments. Speaking during his weekly program Issues in the News, Nandlall acknowledged GRA's legal powers to conduct post-audit reviews.
GRA always has and always had a power to review the assessment of duties and taxes. It is called a post-audit power. It is in the law, and any businessman who has had any relationship with the Guyana Revenue Authority would know of that power. This thing started when one of the Mohammeds decided to publish what duties were paid in relation to the importation of these vehicles. He did that voluntarily. And he would have drawn to the attention of the Guyana Revenue Authority that the taxes that were paid or the duties that were paid were far less than should have been paid.
Due to alleged breaches of the remigrant and duty-free concessions and false declarations, GRA recently disclosed additional taxes owed on 6 high-end vehicles, including a Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, and a Lamborghini. Taxes range from $24 million to nearly $480 million per vehicle. While Mohamed insists the vehicles were imported and approved through proper GRA procedures years ago, Nandlall maintained that the post-audit investigations are standard practice, particularly in cases involving tax concessions. He emphasized that such reviews are legally authorized and commonly executed.
The GRA going after vehicles that were brought in to the country under different concessions is also not a new phenomenon. Again, persons who follow these events would know that whether it's a remigrant scheme type duty-free concession, or whether it is a duty-free concession or a tax concession granted under a different circumstances, GRA carry out random investigations in relation to these matters. And not even random, they carry out investigations to investigate these matters. It is against that backdrop, therefore, that one has to look at this Mohamed thing. But in Guyana, because of the events that are unfolding, everything now is being viewed from a political lens. So the state can't operate anymore. The state, through its various agencies, as soon as it acts to exercise its statutory and legal powers, it is being accused of being politically directed.
The dispute intensified after Mohamed claimed the enforcement was politically motivated, alleging warnings from senior government officials over his political ambitions. However, Nandlal denied these accusations, stating he has not communicated privately with Mohamed since U.S. sanctions were imposed in 2024 on him, his father, Nazar Shel Mohamed, and their businesses for alleged corruption and gold smuggling. The Attorney General stressed the need for transparency regarding how such significant discrepancies in vehicle duties originally occurred.
GRA will have to explain, and some officer who did that assessment will have to explain why the assessment was done in the way that it was done. But that doesn't prevent the GRA from reviewing the situation. Parliament, by law, has given them that power. And that is not a recent power. That is a power that the Guyana Revenue Authority had for decades and has been exercising that power for decades. Businessmen who are listening to me would know what I'm speaking about. It's only the unlearned would have heard of this power for the first time. So there is no political connection, as far as I'm aware, between this exercise.
Last weekend, an attempt to seize the vehicles was met with resistance from Team Mohamed supporters, prompting the High Court to issue a temporary injunction blocking the operation. Nandlal reiterated that the Mohamed family was afforded due process and legal protections, adding that any post-sanction meetings were held officially and in the presence of their attorney. Investigations are ongoing as the legal and political fallout continues to unfold. In other news, on Wednesday, the Ghana Elections Commission, GECOM, issued a statement defending its decision to not renew the employment contract of its legal officer, Kurt De Silva, citing a serious breach of professional conduct that undermined confidence in his ability to carry out his duties. According to the statement, although De Silva received high scores in his performance appraisal and was initially recommended for renewal, new developments between the end of his reviewed period on February 10th and his final day on March 31st prompted reconsideration. The controversy stems from De Silva's handling of a recent court matter involving the verification of addresses under the Representation of the People's Amendment Act. GECOM said the legal officer introduced legal arguments that contradicted the sworn position of the Chief Elections Officer without consultation or authorization, effectively supporting the applicant rather than the Commission's position. GECOM stated that De Silva's actions risk damaging public confidence in the Commission, potentially delaying elections and escalating political tensions. Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anand Nandlal, speaking on his weekly program Issues in the News, said he is not surprised with GECOM's decision.
I am not surprised by that decision. In fact, no one should be surprised by that decision. This lawyer went to court and argued a case and put forward a position contrary to the instructions of his client, and could have caused tremendous public damage to this country and could have put this country into a constitutional crisis. He knows his client is preparing one list. He sits there every day and he sees claims and objections is being done in relation to one list, and that the election, that his client is preparing to hold an elections and preparing a machinery to hold an election with one list, a regional and national elections, and goes to the court and say that two lists must be used, one list for regional election and one list for national elections.
In fact, Nandlal said he defends the decision made by GECOM.
So I support the decision not to renew that contract, because he would have caused this country untold damage during election time if that is the type of advice that GECOM would have gotten in the heat of the moment during election time when tensions are high.
While no other incidents were cited, GECOM emphasized that the legal officer failed to act within the scope of authority granted by the CEO, violating a fundamental duty to represent his client's interests. The Commission concluded that this breach eroded trust to the extent that his contract could not be renewed. The decision was made by majority vote at GECOM's statutory meeting on April 8th. On a different note, in a significant move set to ease the financial burden on parents and students across Guyana, President Dr. Mohamed announced that the government would fully fund the cost of up to 8 Caribbean secondary education certificate exams. The announcement came during an engagement with residents at the West Demerara Secondary School in Region 3 yesterday, where President Ali reaffirmed his administration's commitment to expanding access to education.
From this year's CSEC, the government will pay in full the government will pay in full the cost for at least 8 subjects for every single citizen, every single child in the public and private schools of your family.
The president said this is about investing in the future of the country, noting that the initiative will benefit students from both public and private schools. The head of state said this initiative will ensure that no child is left behind because of financial constraints. According to the Ministry of Education, the cost of sitting the CSEC exams includes an initial entry fee of $3,900, a subject fee of $4,000, and a local administrative fee of $1,000 per subject. Additionally, late registration attracts a fee of $5,000. These fees now waived, the government is absorbing a total estimated cost of $700 million. Minister of Education Priya Manikchan lauded the initiative as a transformative step for young Guyanese. She noted that this is not just about covering fees, it's about removing barriers to opportunities. The initiative has been widely welcomed by students and parents, many of whom says the decision will allow them to aim higher without the stress of exam-related expenses. Stick around when we return. Government announces one-off grants of up to $650,000 for seniors falling short of NIS contributions, and the government to provide a hotline for public assistance appeals.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Current smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I
want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Welcome back. Thousands of senior citizens in Guyana who did not qualify for a national insurance scheme pension due to insufficient contributions will soon receive a one-off government payout ranging from $260,000 to $650,000. President Dr. Mohamed announced in a live address at State House earlier today.
The sum of $10 billion was provided to finance a one-off transfer to those persons who have at least 500 contributions but less than 750 contributions required to receive the NIS pension.
The initiative targets individuals who turn 60 on or before December 31st of 2024 but fail to meet the minimum 750 contributions required for an NIS pension. Payments will be based on the number of NIS contributions made. The initiative, funded by a $10 billion transfer to NIS, is expected to benefit over 25,000 people across the country. Payments could begin as early as next Friday. President Ali noted that many seniors were denied their pension benefits because employers failed to remit NIS deductions. He urged those not yet on the NIS database to register promptly to access the grant.
The NIS would have already have a database of pensioners within the various categories. So beginning on Friday, using that database, they will commence the payout of this initiative. They will commence reaching out to those pensioners and have this initiative implemented. Other pensioners who have not yet submitted their documents within this category, I urge you to do so at the various NIS offices and the outreaches that the Ministry of Finance and NIS would be doing jointly.
The president said the move builds on broader efforts to support the elderly, including raising the monthly pension from $20,500 in 2020 to $41,000 in 2025, and the $100,000 cash grant, and plans to improve healthcare access with several new regional hospitals.
Our senior citizens, in particular, will be served by these and other investments we are making in the health sector so that they can all live long, healthy, fulfilling, and dignified lives.
This measure follows other recent initiatives by the government, including a $700 million investment to cover CSEC exam fees for students sitting at least 8 subjects. In other news, Vice President Dr. Jaglio has announced that the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security will soon introduce contact numbers for individuals who believe they were unfairly disqualified from receiving public assistance. The move comes as part of efforts to enhance transparency and accessibility in the welfare system. Dr. Jaglio made a disclosure during his weekly press conference earlier today.
So I want to urge those people who feel that way to contact the ministry. Soon we'll put out all the numbers where you can call in if you believe that you fall under this category, where you've been unfairly removed by some local board who did not take account of all of your concerns.
Additionally, to streamline the distribution process, the government has announced that public assistance beneficiaries will now only be required to apply once yearly, with approved recipients receiving a single annual booklet starting in 2026. According to the Ministry of Human Services, the change will take effect in April 2025. This year, beneficiaries will receive 2 booklets covering January to June and July to December. One comprehensive booklet covering the entire calendar year will be issued from next year onwards. Approval for public assistance granted for both economic and medical reasons is handled by the local board of guardians. The new system aims to reduce the burden on recipients and improve efficiency in delivering social support services. Don't go away after the break. Impact of U.S. levies. Businesses navigate effects of new import taxes. And Greek workers protest in Athens demanding better pay amid rising inflation.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Current smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things. What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lenders, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. In the Caribbean, Dominican Republic authorities have ended rescue efforts and shifted to recovery after the Jet Set nightclub roof collapsed that killed 280 people. The disaster occurred early Tuesday during a performance by merengue star Ruby Perez. Officials say all chances of finding survivors have been exhausted, with 189 rescued and many bodies still being identified. 3 days of mourning were declared, and President Al-Binadar visited the site to offer condolences. The cause remains under investigation. In Europe, thousands of workers in Greece have taken part in a nationwide strike to protest the rising cost of living and demand better pay. With inflation having soared over the last 4 years, many households are struggling to afford basic essentials like food. Al Jazeera's John Sarapoulos reports.
As they take their first steps in the labour market, young Greeks are worried. The Conservative government has set the minimum wage at $1,000 a month before tax. That's up from $700 when the New Democracy Party came to power more than 5 years ago. People here say high inflation has wiped out the gains.
We want working conditions to improve now, collective bargaining leading to real pay rises with bonuses. Every year the government offers us a pittance. This month, for instance, we got a pay rise of 60 cents an hour. That's peanuts compared to the rising cost of living.
Christos is one of 60% of workers who say their salary is not enough to cover monthly expenses.
Greece crawled its way out of the global financial crisis 15 years ago, partly thanks to steep drops in salaries. Collective wage bargaining between employers and unions was abolished, and that helped make the economy more competitive. Salaries have since crept up a little, but the high inflation of the past 4 years has made people poorer again. They say they need pay raises to survive.
Stripping 3/4 of workers of collective wage bargaining means Greeks now have the lowest purchasing power in the European Union, along with Bulgarians. About 90% say they can't afford basic food items. That's mainly why the roughly 700,000 young people who left Greece after it went bankrupt in 2010 are unlikely to return.
I have 3 sons and they are all abroad. I think that says everything. They all saw Greece as a dead end and they left.
I asked what was to blame for high prices.
Prime Minister Mitsotakis, the supermarket cartel and the monopolies in electricity and other state-owned enterprises, and the lack of political will to help people.
Many Greeks say Labour has paid disproportionately to mend the country's finances, while the rich fix markets to get richer. John Psaropoulos, Al Jazeera, Athens.
The U.S. is feeling the effects of new tariffs on imports, which are driving up costs for businesses and consumers alike. From auto repair shops to everyday consumer goods, Americans are facing higher prices. Al Jazeera's Heidi Zucastro reports.
The financial news headlines are dire, but work still has to be done at Auto Century Repair Shop in Alexandria, Virginia. The small business has been bracing for the increased costs of auto parts,
Knock a flashlight.
Most of which come from overseas.
It's been a jump, and it's not only just a jump in price, it's been difficult to get. You know, a lot of the parts are not excessive as they were before. It won't go in reverse when it warms up.
Owner Sammy Kassar says auto parts are already 30% more expensive than they were before Trump took office. Many are made in China, and now they'll be subject to a 125% tariff.
Honestly, if you ask me personally about tariffs, I don't think they should exist. Hopefully they can come to the table, they can agree upon everything and just remove it. So we replace the caliper.
Herb Lansdowne agrees. The father of 4 had no choice but to pay for an expensive repair bill today, and he's worried about what tomorrow will bring.
It's not a good feeling because like the cost of living goes up, but minimum wage doesn't go up. And now with the tariffs, it's kind of scaring people.
The entire American car industry is reeling from these tariffs. Volvo sells Chinese-made cars in the U.S., and prices here and at other new car dealerships across the country are expected to go up by $5,000 to $10,000 per vehicle.
I was thinking about buying a car. I'm not now. I'm definitely going to wait.
Americans foregoing purchases and businesses minimizing their bottom line are exactly the actions economists fear will tip the U.S. economy into recession. But it's a response most are contemplating to deal with Trump's tariffs. Heidi Jo Castro, Al Jazeera, Alexandria, Virginia.
Finally, Sudan is taking the United Arab Emirates to court. It has filed a complaint with the International Court of Justice accusing the UAE of complicity in what is described as genocide by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. Al Jazeera's Mohamed Val explains.
It's one of the most painful chapters of the ongoing conflict in Sudan. Some now call it the Masalit genocide. It began when fighting broke out in Khartoum on April 15 between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. For nearly 2 months, RSF, a mainly Arab militia from Darfur, reportedly laid siege to the city of Guyana, capital of West Darfur. The target was the African ethnic Masalit. Rights groups say eyewitnesses recount how RSF burned people alive and engaged in extrajudicial killing, ethnic cleansing, forced displacement of civilians, and burning of villages. Alleged acts of rape and the killing of babies stood out as the most atrocious.
We took refuge in a hospital. Paramilitaries from the Rapid Support Forces chased us to the hospital and tried to kill everyone. We tried to escape. My mother, my grandmother, my aunt and I took refuge in a place called Mukta. In Mukta, they did an extermination. They killed all the people. They put them on the ground in groups of 20 and shot at the group.
Thousands of Masalit, including children, were reportedly attacked while trying to flee to neighboring Chad.
The children were beaten with wooden rods. My nephew was only 2 months old. When he was beaten, his mother did not take him off her back. On her way to Adra, she pulled him off her back to find him dead.
They killed many men. They raped girls. They raped women. They killed men and young boys.
Interethnic violence between Arab and African tribes in Darfur goes back decades. RSF's origin is alleged to be the so-called Arab Janjaweed militia that was used by the former regime of Omar al-Bashir to curb dissent by African ethnic tribes in Darfur. But according to the military-led Sudanese government, RSF now has a new sponsor, a foreign country, namely the United Arab Emirates. It says the UAE is complicit in the mass killing not only in Darfur but across Sudan by supplying RSF with funds, sophisticated weapons, mercenary fighters and military expertise. The United Arab Emirates has denied the accusations. However, Sudan's government says the UAE should face justice for its role in the deliberate destruction of its land and people. Mohamed Val, Al Jazeera, Khartoum.
This brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. And that's it, TV2 Headline News for this Thursday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for a rebroadcast and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.